Hi, this is Sarah Curtis, and I will be talking to you about my final project for RDG 592. It is the word supply plus sentence repeat error correction strategy that I use to improve reading accuracy. So, to begin with, reading accuracy is important, but why? We know that there are five essential components of effective reading instruction as outlined by the National Reading Panel, and fluency is one of those. Accuracy is a part of that um, component of reading instruction. You can see in these definitions of reading fluency that were found in our letters module, number 5. It is described as accurate and fluent oral reading. If fluency is manifested in accurate, rapid, expressive oral reading, fluency is accurate reading at a minimal rate with appropriate prosodic features. If you can't tell, the common theme among those is that accurate reading is part of fluency. As such, I wanted to learn more about how to improve that. Dr. Murdoch stated that struggling readers need more structured, systematic, explicit emphasis on building both accuracy and fluency. So, what I did was I thought, what do I know or what do we know as teachers about reading accuracy? Well, and reading those definitions, we know that it is important for all students. It's often overemphasized, rate is often overemphasized, and not so much attention is spent on accuracy. We talk about words correct per minute or words read per minute, but oftentimes students will be moved to more difficult text before they're ready because their rate is much faster, but they are making quite a few number of mistakes. Also noted in letters by Motes and Davidson is that not only speed matters, but accuracy as well. And that every time a reader misreads a word, we're losing meaning. So meaning may be lost or eroded. Therefore, I really wanted to learn about how to improve that accuracy. And what I found was that in order for teachers to help students not make those mistakes, we needed to teach error correction. And as Dr. Murdoch stated, that error correction is an element of fluency instruction. I also found in one of my articles that with those students that are have reading disabilities, like those that I work with that have dyslexia, their reading errors can make comprehension difficult, and they are less likely to reread passages or self-correct. It's very often that those students will just continue to read and not want to pay attention to those errors. Also, what I found in an article was a really good description of the reason why students often uh, don't pay attention to miscues or just continue to read, and that they will not learn these self correction strategies unless we are modeling them and teaching them explicitly. So, this is what said is consider the situation of the remedial reading student who has made a reading miscue. In the first place, such students are probably less likely to detect a disruption in comprehension or meaning construction because they have learned to tolerate a good deal of ambiguity or anomaly in reading situations. And that's true. With students that struggle, they know that they're not getting everything right and they're just going with the flow, getting the gist of it and moving on. In the second place, and more to the point, even if the students do detect a comprehension breakdown, and are prompted to reinspect the text, not test, they are less likely to succeed in correcting miscue or in supplying a difficult word. So, like we said, even if they do somehow recognize something is wrong, it's very hard for them to find it on their own. So, even when they're reading for meaning and trying to pay attention to their comprehension, remedial readers will be hampered and slowed down by attempts to word recognition. Often they'll get frustrated and just skip the word. So, in my studies and research, I have found that uh, those that have published and done articles have found that error correction and repeated readings are what make a good impact on reading accuracy and proficiency. We've already read in lots of articles about fluency that repeated readings are a great way to increased rate in students, especially lower students that are used to being very careful, which is great. Repeated readings are what can help speed up that process. However, I wanted to know more about error correction. They do say that those two techniques are both efficient and effective at improving reading accuracy. And this article stated that there are two things that need to be part of that error correction, and that is that requiring the students to repeat the correct word after the teacher has provided it is important, as well as the timing of the teacher provision of the word, which was immediate as opposed to delayed correction. Another article that I found was really helpful in summarizing the studies of many other experts in the area of error correction. Again, it said that there's a positive relationship between error correction and student performance. Having the student actively respond was more effective than inactive students, such as having the student not repeat the word or just letting the teacher do the work. Immediate as opposed to delayed correction was important. Correction after every error was more effective than intermittent. And that goes back to what Dr. Murdoch stated in the explicit systematic error correction. Drill procedures that involve multiple practice trials were more effective than one steps. And then spelling and writing also was proposed as being a part of the error correction process. There's not support as yet, but it was included in that article. So, in my other studies, I found other error correction techniques. So these are the 8 that I found in my studies. I have a video on the next page that will talk about the first 6, which are the most quick and efficient. Number 7 and 8 are more labor intensive, and I feel were more appropriate for learning vocabulary or content specific words or multisyllabic words for older students. So, in those 6 other correction strategies, you notice that a lot of times the student is required to repeat, and there are some that also work after a student has made miscues that they work afterwards. These last 2 procedures are the 7-step and multi-learning procedures, which I mentioned before. These have many more steps, um, and they also involve spelling the word and sometimes writing the word. These I thought would be better for learning difficult vocabulary and content areas and would be much too slow for beginning readers. So, in looking at those strategies, I picked the word supply and sentence repeat. These are the steps. Teacher points out error. Either teacher provides the word or student corrects the error. The teacher provides the word, student repeats, and then rereads the sentence from the beginning. The teacher tracks the number of errors, and then the student graphs those errors afterwards. These are the instructions I give to the student, and they're